what your website is. But once again, it's about that customized and personal piece with the town. Like this whole project is going to be customized to the town of Petawawa, the translation software included. So that's something we will certainly explore and figure out what the best option is based on the website. And then of course the hard copy will utilize translation services that we've used in the past, potentially get community members involved who are happy to kind of support this project for that component. Thank you.
It is kind of timely. We are in the process of redeveloping and redesigning our website as we speak. So I guess it makes sense that if we're going to add something, now is the perfect time to add it. And we've also talked about making our website more accessible. And I think that involves allowing for different translations. So I'm not involved in the design process of it, but I'm thinking that having all different types of translations for our website would be part of it. Any other questions? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming to do the presentation. Definitely some interesting information. Would you explain a little bit more about this charter and what it entails? What would it say? Things like that. Thanks.
Absolutely. So the inclusion charter itself is quite simple. Generally, it's a paragraph or two, a promise from the town to be more inclusive, to be proactive in developing programming, offering more accessible services, all of those kinds of things. So the charter itself is quite simple, but where the main components come from is the actions that come from that inclusion charter. So in putting it all together, as I mentioned, we'll set some small, medium and large goals in terms of actionable items that will directly tie to that inclusion charter. I can also provide, there's other LIPs and there's other communities. So, what's the name? Yes, South Bruce County, they have an inclusion charter project that they did in their community. So I can send through theirs as an example so you can see what it looks like.
So what I'm hearing is it's almost like a mission statement or a vision, and then expanding on that. Further questions? I just had a question about, you mentioned pain points, and I'm sure you have lots of experience in, figuring out some of the limitations and barriers that new immigrants face when they come to small communities like ours. I'll just mention one that I think is in need around this area, and that's ESL training and English language training, because for a lot of these individuals who come without even basic knowledge of the English language, it's so important that they learn it as fast as they can to have employment opportunities. And I just find, just based on recent experience, that there's not a lot being offered. And I know the school board offers some of the libraries do as well. But one of the biggest, I'll call it a pain point, is that it's during the day. And these individuals, some of them who get to the rudimentary level, need to work to provide for their families. And the only time they can learn the English language is in the evening, and there's not a lot offered. So I'm just wondering if there's a plan in place.
There actually is. For those around the space who aren't aware, Lanark and Renfrew counties recently received formalised funding for settlement services, which is fantastic. So the team are currently being built and they're going to be overseen by a clerk in Lanark County. So there's going to be 3 settlement coordinators recruited, and one will be based in Pembroke, one in Smiths Falls, and one in Carlton Place, if my memory serves me. But I've been having discussions with them specifically around ESL. There have been changes in funding regarding ESL programming, which is not ideal. But again, in light of that, what we're looking at doing is kind of utilising an existing program that Local Immigration Partnership have. So we've actually got a mentorship program called the Learning and Connection Circle program. And over the past few months, we've been working to scale this up, empowering our mentors. So our mentors are locals in the community, and our mentees are newcomers to the community, and many of them do need support with exactly that, ESL. So we've in support with a local ESL teacher, very experienced ESL teacher, we created a How to Teach ESL Basics booklet, which has been provided to the libraries. I've got lots of them if anyone would like one. But the idea is that empowers mentors to help with ESL learning. And once again, while it's not as robust as full-blown ESL services, on I guess with the inclusion charter and on that piece around community and the importance of community, we're hoping to build our own little kind of ESL community in the Ottawa Valley by providing resources like this, by utilising settlement services and the more kind of refined ESL services that they're looking to provide. So there's definitely ESL, and building robust programming around ESL is definitely at top of mind as well.
So I think that's great. Anything that gets these individuals out of their home and even conversing with somebody else, even if it's not an expert ESL teacher, if they sit down and go through a booklet with them, or even just have a conversation, it gets them speaking, hearing, and learning English a little faster. Just based on the individuals that are here right now, on Tuesday and Wednesday, they can go for a full day to Mary Street in Pembroke for English language lessons, but that's it. There's nothing Monday, Thursday, Friday, and nothing in the evenings at the present moment. And they would go all day, every day, if there was something available for them.
And if I may say, the intention is that these mentors will build on those programs so they have more opportunities to practice. There's a bit of flexibility there. They can work around each other's schedules, even if it's over the phone or over Zoom. It's about practicing and getting them out of their comfort zones, getting them integrated into the community, helping them establish networks as well in the community.
Okay, that's perfect. So it sounds like something that Petawawa would be very open to. And I guess my next question is, what is our first step? Not so much asking you, but maybe even staff. What do we have to do as a council to get this going? Councillor Coutu.
If I may, Mr. Mayor. So to your point, the committee's happy to take on that liaison role. So we've already started to undertake some of this work on our own. If you look at our community survey report, we had done an attempt at putting together all the community resources. So with the added boost of help from LIP, we'll be able to expand on that and then talk over again those little pieces to put together a municipal charter, then to bring back to council to reflect on and consider and provide feedback on, if that sounds good.
So that would be the guiding group? Is that what I mean? The guiding group? So Scott and Colin, next steps from us right now as we sit here in this room, what do you want from us?
I think we're fine. We received this report or this presentation, and as Councillor Coutu said, we'll come back through the EDI committee with a report for council.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? So thanks so much for coming here this evening. It's very exciting. I'm glad you chose us as the groundbreaking community. We're quite happy to take this on. And as I said, our website is being designed, so it's perfect timing. And we have a, not newly formed, but a new enthusiastic EDI group who's willing to work with you and be part of that guiding group.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you for your interest in being a part of this project. It's wonderful to see, and I wouldn't want to leave here this evening without thanking one of the EDI committee members, Maurice Howe. She's also an employee at the Petawawa Public Library, but she was really kind of started this entire process. So I'd like to thank her. Thanks, everyone.
So thanks, Maurice, for getting us involved. Okay, thanks again for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And you're welcome to stay to watch the rest of the festivities. Or you can sneak out, we won't be offended. Okay, we're going to carry on with the Fire and Emergency Services monthly report. Craig? Oh, Craig's back there. Acting Fire Chief Brew, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I have the report for March. Starting with the Fire Chief's comments. On March 5th, I attended the Renfrew County Fire Chiefs meeting in Pembroke. On the 6th, I participated in a meeting with the Ontario Fire Marshal's advisors regarding inspection orders. And on the 19th, attended a meeting for the watershed conditions within the county. For instance, we had 6 of them. We had 2 fire alarms. We had an oven fire on March 2nd. We had 2 motor vehicle collisions, one on the March 5th and one on the 29th, and a smoke alarm faulty detector activation on the 16th. For training for the month, the crews did the open water rescue and the advanced boating systems with their sonar, radar, chart plotter, and also they reviewed our operational guideline 400, which is the smoke alarm guide. We had specialty training March 23rd and the 29th. For the certification, the NFPA 1001 level 2, and then the hazmat awareness and ops. We had minor maintenance. We had our vehicles in for safety checks. Air dryer was replaced on on our rescue truck. The town garage, our crews brought up some items to free up some space in the halls. And we had half our department fit tested for the self-contained breathing apparatuses. For fire inspections, we conducted 24 for the month. They did 3 fire drills at our vulnerable residents. Public relations, the chief fire inspector had a tour at Station 2 with a local family. For administration, the chief fire inspector met with myself and the acting deputy for the community risk assessment and attended a virtual meeting with the fire marshal on the 7th of March. On the 21st, there was this CFI was at the Provincial Offences Court in Pembroke and attended an online training session for the Municipal Fire Prevention Officers Association for residential carbon monoxide and smoke alarms. We had 10 total checked, and brings us to 30 homes that were checked to date. And for recreational permits, we're at 925. That's my report for March.
Thanks, Greg. Questions on the report? I understand that you have swift water training coming up sometime soon.
Yeah, we're looking at the beginning of June. We're going to be bringing in a third party to help us with the training for our new personnel. We have 11 that have to go through it, so it's going to be coming up very shortly. And it's going to depend on the water levels, because right now they're unsafe, but there's a lot of things we have to look at.
Apparently I've been invited again to participate in said training, and apparently you need a dummy to throw into the fast water, and since I was the dummy you threw into the freezing water, I'm assuming I'm going to get thrown into the fast water and hopefully rescued. But I will gladly participate in the training as long as it's safe. I just want to pass on a huge thanks to you from Laurentian Valley for you and your crew assisting with the fire that they had a couple of weeks ago. So from them to you, thank you very much for you and your crew for assisting. They greatly appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? I need a motion then to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the Fire and Emergency Services monthly report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have FD-01-2025, agreement for the renewal of the provision of communication services to the County of Renfrew Fire Services. Craig.
So the report, I don't think this has ever been brought to council because we do have a bylaw and it kept renewing over the years, but I did want to bring this to light so that you see the financial implications that we were dealing with the province through the the county. So we get an administration fee from the county of $3,075.26 a year. That's what we'll be paying this year. And the services for 17 municipalities is $52,279.43. That's divided between the 17 plus the additional so 7,900. That's based on the calls. So dispatch pays us or charges us at a rate for $22.63 for the call taking and $29.61 for the dispatching. So last year we paid $11,015.74 for the communications. So in 2026, the town will be paying the county administration fee of $32.2656, and again it'll be divided into the 17 municipalities at $23.74 for the call taking and $31.07 for the dispatching. So they renewed this, and we knew this was coming. I never got to see the agreement until March 21st, but it was signed off November 27th to the county, and then it went to the director to be signed off January 7th, and then we received it. But I did want to bring this and make sure that you're aware of what's going on with their dispatching at this point.
Okay, questions on this report with our dispatch services? It's nice to see that the county is dividing it equally between the 17 municipalities and not based on population.
Yeah, I do want to bring forward though, like I'm going through the implementation plan for a master fire plan, and this is in there. It talks about it in recommendation 49, but I'm going to bring more information to council whenever the implementation plan comes through, because there is a lot about certifications and what level of service that we want from dispatchers, because I think we do have to review this and look at some safety issues that we do have, and then I'll bring that more information to you at a later date.
Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I had an interesting conversation with somebody at Showcase this weekend, and they lived on Dundonald Drive. It involved OPP, not fire, but I'm sure it would be the same type of issue. They lived right on the border, Dundonald Drive, on the town side. And they called the police, and basically they got the runaround. You need MPs. The MPs told them they need OPP, and she had no satisfaction anyway. And she was asking, like, what's the deal, or like, why? And can you maybe shine some light on that? Like, would the same thing happen with a fire call?
We actually do have those issues, and what happens is it depends on if it's a cell phone call of what tower it hits. So if they're on that borderline, then the call could be routed to the military police, or it could be routed to the OPP. So it depends on the PSAP, the public service answering point. The first one goes to North Bay, which is the North Bay OPP, and then they would route that call to the secondary PSAP, whether it's the Smith Falls OPP, or not Smith Falls, but Aurelia or whatnot, or the ambulance service or the fire service. So yeah, there is sometimes a fine line there, and the call does get routed elsewhere, but it's important for the callers to know exactly if they're on the garrison or if they're in the town. So we do have those issues.
Further questions on the report? Okay, we'll receive that one as information. Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Recreation, Culture and Tourism Report, monthly activity report for March, sorry. Colin Coyle. I got your title right this time. Recreation, Culture and Tourism.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just here to present the monthly report for March as information. We had two of our staff in the department take part in some training with the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization for generated content training. What that is it's going to allow our staff that take care of tourism or recreation content for Facebook, Instagram, to not only just create pretty pictures online to attract people's attention, but how do we get to more people? We have a lot of people in the area and surrounding areas that want to participate in our programs, events, and other things that we do. How do we reach them? That's always a great thing that we hear. I don't hear about this, I don't hear about that. So this is going to give us the opportunity to spread our wings a little bit further and have staff learn how do we just not make a post, but how we take that post to reach a wider audience. So that's going to be some great opportunities for not only our programs and tourism, but other opportunities as well. More of our staff attended the job fair at Algonquin College, which we had a few replies from and resumes submitted. I'm glad to say that we are just about full. We have all of our summer camp staff hired. We are hiring our tourism ambassador that will be working at the Comfort Station. We have our community ambassador that will be a collaboration and team up with economic development to provide recreation programs throughout the community, as well as a collaboration to help oversee the container market as well, to provide some programming and opportunities there. So it's great that we have two departments and a shared staff to look over those items as well. We are in the midst of just finalizing our interviews and hiring for the beach. Otherwise, that should be done by the end of this week, next week, and then we should be complete for the summer for all of our summer program staff. As you can see from the presentation there, we've had an extensive program with children's, adults, and seniors programming as per usual. Silver Threads is doing extremely well. They have the opportunity to reach a great group there, so the requests just come in more and more. I just want to highlight a big thing because it's been on our radar for a long time. Last time I discussed summer camps, I believe it was sold out in 4 minutes or 5 minutes. We did expand camps to the best of our ability for older children, adding on another full 8 weeks of camp. The only problem was the space that we have, we can't provide extended care. So that just sort of shrinks our availability for some families. But all of our regular camps that have become sort of tradition in the community, this year sold out in 3 minutes. So that being said, I know Shallon is already looking at alternatives. We're working with other organizations and groups to see what we can do. So we've got some, even though Camp 2025 hasn't even started yet, we are planning to fix, grow, and expand the camps for 2026 to the best of our abilities with the resources we have. We were able to offer up another coffee house, and it was another great event. They're well accepted. They're small events and designed that way. That will be the last one for this spring. As we move into summer, those types of activities and music events will move outside and they will continue to be free events. We're also taking this type of concept and going to make it bigger, and we'll be introducing that as a new event coming up as a part of the Ramble. So it's been well accepted there, and with that event growing, we've sort of put a little magic in there to create a whole new event, which we'll have more information in upcoming months for that. As far as our rentals, you can see things are consistent with banquet hall rentals, ice rentals, and other locations. And just a note, I'm sure everyone has noticed, but as of March 30th, the ice was out, so we've already started to shift over now to the trade shows and other rentals on that line. And last but not least, we've got a few more things. We've put in a grant application as an additional funding opportunity for the Green Jobs Initiative, which if we get it will go to offset the funding for the community ambassador position. And last but not least, tourism will be working on a new platform to grow its own social media page. So look forward into the new future. For Facebook, it'll be at Visit Petawawa. And on Instagram, it'll be hashtag Visit Petawawa. So that'll be developed over the next couple of months and sort of ramp up to build on the tourism platform that we have. And that's what we have for the month of March.
Thank you very much, Colin. Lots of things happening, and although it was sad to hear the summer camp sold out in 3 minutes, it just means more people are in there and it's getting more and more popular. So it's definitely something to look at for 2026. Okay, Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colin, great job by you and your whole team there. The programming is just great, just super. When should we see staffing at the Comfort Station? I always have people asking about that, so.
So there will be crossover there. We are looking for the May long weekend to start. The individual that has that position is keen to start, so there's some training that will have to happen before that. We'll have them involved with the county's OPTA familiarization tour. So not only are we promoting what's already in our community, but that we're sharing the knowledge right across Renfrew County on what's happening in our county and community. But they will be there 5 days a week. Wednesday through Sunday to oversee that program and welcome people, and the community ambassadors will help as we're starting to grow that green space. We're going to start animating that space as well, so it'll be shared position where they'll be doing programming here and there along with our staff as well.
Was my next question, so thank you so much. That's really good.
Further questions? Deputy Mayor Sabri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Colin. Colin, this one is in regards to pickleball. We've, as you know, the Recreation Master Plan said that was one thing that you would be working towards. And I know that the curling occurs on the arena floor in the winter months. Just wondering if there's any opportunities with the arena floor. And I know there's lots going on. I just sort of came to me as you were talking about the ice coming out. What are we looking at, or do we have anything a little bit firm or a little bit in our heads right now as to how we're going to sort of look at growing that capacity for our pickleball users this coming season? Thank you.
So we are currently starting to work with the pickleball club to prepare to go outside. The courts will be receiving some upkeep and filling some cracks and things like that. The arena floor, unfortunately, is filled with summer camps. We use the summer camp location. We divide the arena into 2 locations, and that's sort of their home base. So to try and flip back and forth between the creativity, we'll call it, for summer camp and all that goes on in there, and then to try and flip it over just for evenings when we've got a perfectly great outdoor location that is already painted and taken care of and lit. Might be a little bit of stress on the staff to try and manage both of those things and flip that location back and forth. But we do have the schedule, and it is a very full schedule that they've requested for that location. So we will be working with them to make sure that works for both the town, the public users, and the club. I think what we're going to be looking at is indoor locations in the off season. So that's something that's going to take some research, and it is something that is in the master plan, and we'll be presenting that in the next few weeks as well, what the findings and the outcomes from that plan has come forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the report? I just will mention that every time I drive by the senior programming center, the parking lot is as full as I've ever seen it. So it's obvious the numbers are up there and the programming is interesting, captivating. So kudos to everybody there and all the programming that they're putting on. Okay, if there are no further questions, then I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Roos, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Recreation, Culture and Tourism Monthly Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Colin. Okay, next up we have Planning and Development, PL-15-2025, additional residential units, ARUs, and tonight it's about the updated zoning provisions. Melanie with backup, or is it Jeff with backup?
I'm backup.
Okay.
Noah.
Noah. Oh, jeez.
I'll take it. That's a compliment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Were we filming at that part when I said the wrong name?
Sorry.
Were we filming then when I said the wrong name?
Yes, we were. Sorry. The stream has been fixed. Yes.
Not a problem. So, as you know, we've been working to update our zoning provisions for additional residential units, ARUs. We initially brought council a set of draft provisions in January. We were given the go from council at that time and proceeded to host a public meeting in late March to get the public's input on those provisions. As far as public engagement, we received a response from one public agency, Enbridge Gas. They gave us out their kind of standard response, no concerns with, the ability to impose development conditions. We received 2 written submissions from the public. One was a request to receive a notice of decision when the zoning is passed or refused, or assuming passed. And the other being a suggestion, a list of suggestions from JP2G consultants in a form of a letter. That letter was shared with council. Staff met with JP2G to discuss the comments actually prior to the public meeting and thoroughly considered their comments. As a result, we've amended the provisions and those amendments incorporate 2 of JP2G's suggestions of the 7 that they provided. Of those 2, one is reorganization. As you can probably notice, the provisions on attachment number 3 have been reorganized. And the second, maybe the one substantive change, is that we're suggesting in this revised set of provisions that ARUs be permitted in the urban area on the 2nd story of accessory structures, provided that they do not exceed the final height of the primary building. So if you have a 2-story house and then you will have a detached garage that you want to construct an ARU on top of, that's permitted, provided it's not taller than the house. So those are the 2 suggestions that we incorporated into attachment number 3. We will revisit a number of JP2G's other suggestions during the zoning bylaw update. So they have not been disregarded by any means. By means of this report, we've provided the initially proposed and updated provisions. Attachment 1, initial, attachment 3 is updated, and we're looking for council's direction. So the choice here is either to proceed with the initial or proceed with the updated. If council does decide to proceed with the updated, then there's another decision to make, and that's whether to recirculate notice. That's your call under the Planning Act. It's staff's opinion that the changes are relatively minor and that another notice period would not be necessitated, but we'll leave that to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, I'll open it up to questions of council. Councillor Kerman.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks for the report, Noah. Just curious, what's the rationale for the height restriction on the ARU? Because I'm thinking the vast majority of homes in Petawawa are bungalows, so that excludes just about nobody's going to be putting an ARU in their a 2nd story or a 2nd floor in their garage, or very few people anyway.
So the intent on the height restriction, and this was created with some feedback from council as well, was it's a neighborhood character, privacy, mainly driven provision. I do understand definitely what you're saying with the existing bill form is largely 1 story for the primary dwellings in kind of the more established areas of town. So the people that do benefit from this are limited, and that's understood. As I said, the main intent is largely a privacy thing. If you have, sometimes with our accessory dwelling provisions, you could have a detached garage that's only 1.2 meters from the rear lot line, say, whereas your a primary or an ARU would have to be further set back. So they are sometimes can be closer. So with these provisions, they'll have to follow essentially the primary dwelling setbacks, and the I guess the massing from the street will remain, respective of the primary height. I don't know, Melanie, if you have anything to add to that.
Oh, I think Noah covered it very well. It's just so that where we do have neighborhoods primarily of bungalows, that there's not detached garages popping up that are twice the height of all of the houses in the neighborhood. So it is kind of a massing consideration.
Yeah, I just wonder if a blanket policy denying all, or forbidding 2nd stories, or ARUs to be higher than the original building. I wonder if maybe we shouldn't do it on a case-by-case basis rather than denying everybody the opportunity.
Yeah, we can do that. And also if we say, so the thinking behind matching the primary building unit is if you have a 2-story house, you could have an attached garage that is 2 stories. So why not have a detached, you could also have a detached garage, provided it met all of the setbacks for the main building, not the accessory building setbacks, which are less. So what we were thinking is that basically a detached building of the same height is no different than kind of an attached garage of the same height of the primary building. But that said, people can apply for variances to these as well and then assess it on a case-by-case basis. So, you know, we could allow them and, but if we allow them as of right, then everybody gets them and there's no case-by-case, or we can say, stick to the primary, and if you want to do something different, apply for a minor variance. So whichever council would prefer.
Okay, thanks for that answer. And I think it, in a way, it kind of makes sense when you purchase a home and you look at the neighbors around you, if they're all the same level of you, and you may have a pool or a hot tub or a deck in the back, and then all of a sudden somebody builds something twice as tall and they can look out the windows and into the, you know, into your backyard, and it disrupts your privacy. So I can understand why this needs to be in place. And I understand Councillor Carmody's question as well. But if the opportunity to apply for a variance on a case-by-case basis, let's say there's a large buffer of trees between the 2 houses, which allows for a second story and doesn't invade the neighbor's privacy. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. The one main difference being that a minor variance is going to cost you money. Whereas if we have it in the bylaw on a case-by-case basis, it wouldn't be a money issue.
Deputy Mayor Sambre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was going to be my question, is what is the cost of a minor variance? So I think that's a point well taken. I'm glad that you brought that up because it wasn't even something that I thought of. But, you know, if you're in a more rural setting, then you don't have neighbors, then it might make sense on a case-by-case basis. Whereas if you're in a subdivision, then I certainly wouldn't want to be the house to which the ARU looked right into the privacy of my small backyard. So I appreciate that. But I want to thank you for the work that you've done and the time and energy that you've put into this. It's an important opportunity for homes and for building more homes and getting more people housed. So that's really great. I guess from the perspective, I think that the 2 minor provisions that you added, I'm quite comfortable with that, and I would agree that they're minor in nature, and I don't think that we need to do another public input meeting thing. That's a very technical term for it, just so you know.
Notice of change, is that what it was?
Correct, something along those lines, yes. A recirculation of notice would be good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I like mine, it's a 4-letter acronym.
And I also appreciate that, so JP2G had a lot of comments, and I appreciate the fact that we're going to look on a few of those further when we're doing the zoning bylaw update. Are there any further questions? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to second with Teresa, what does a minor variance cost for someone if they wanted to apply for one?
We did just have a 2025 fee increase. I don't know off the top of my head. It's over $1,000, I do believe. $1,500.
So that is significant enough for someone to apply for one for something they're not going to get. It comes back to raising costs of building more residences. And so in our bylaw, could it state, like James says, they can be approved on a case-by-case basis compared to having to get a minor variance? Because every added cost we're going to add on to people developing, it is a knock against wanting to develop. It's one more step you have to go through. So I'd like to see that, and I'll answer that one.
So it's not typically written in zoning bylaws that it's case by case, because what are you assessing on the case by case? Like that, the minor variance has the 4 tests that you consider to decide whether that case makes sense. So we would have to take that back and look into that further, but that's not, zoning is very prescriptive. But I wanted to add that as far as the height of detached, there is, in the rural zone, they are allowed to be higher. I think it's 7.5 meters. So in the, out of the built up area and out in the more rural area there, the detached provisions are more generous.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed with our rear yard setback, we're at 7.5 meters. So if I have a garage right now that's built at 1.2 meters, can I convert that still into an ARU even though it doesn't meet our setback guidelines?
It's a good question. As of right, you could not convert it. You would need to apply for a variance to make that a legal unit, and if it doesn't meet the necessary setbacks.
Okay, so with that, how many areas in town can people actually get an ARU, a detached one in their backyard with it that fit into these setbacks and with their garage being limited in height? Do we have much of an area that are actually capable of sustaining this?
It would depend on the neighborhood, the unit size that they're proposing, the existing setback. The detached units have to be in the side yard or the rear yard. They can't be in front of the primary dwelling. So if you have a excessive front yard setback, that limits your rear yard and the geometry, the configuration gets a little tougher. I can't give you a figure for a percentage or a number because there's a lot of variables, but you are right in saying that the 7.5 may be limiting for some of our smaller in-town lots.
Now, would something like that be able to be, I know we discussed this before. I think we talked at one point about 3 meters, because if I'm putting an ARU in my backyard, I want it at the back corner of my property, your backyard becomes a shared common space. I don't think your ARU needs its own backyard that's behind your backyard of your primary dwelling. It just does seem like it's going to extremely limit where we can actually have these. And if the point is people wanting to be able to have them, there has to be some give and take. I mean, 7.5 meters is pretty significant in a fully serviced residential lot. They're not that big, so.
We did look at that because that was brought up in the policy workshop in the fall, was that council would entertain a lower setback if we could implement things like requiring a fence. The challenge with that is that fences don't need a building permit, so we can't actually enforce something like that. So in speaking with the building department, their strong recommendation was to stick with the current requirements of the primary building unit. The other thing to keep in mind is the demand we're seeing is basement apartments, very few detached ARU. So the demand that we're seeing in town is for the basement ARUs, and actually I can't think of a detached ARU since I've been here in the last year. So it could change, understood.
Very few spots.
But so far, what we're seeing the interest in is in the attached areas.
I think one thing we can't lose sight of here is that this, the attachment number 3 is allowing for second story accessory or ARUs. So we are allowing for an additional method for people to, add an ARU to their existing dwelling. So we are taking steps to permit ARUs. It's just that this one comes with a little bit of I'm not sure what to call it. So if somebody has a 1-story dwelling, they can build a garage that is as high as the house. So it would have the ability to have an ARU on top of the garage, am I correct? It's just that that garage cannot be taller than the dwelling itself.
That's how it's written, yes.
Okay. Because I think we're getting lost here on the fact that a garage can have an ARU on top of it, as long as it's not taller than the existing house. What we're not allowing is for that garage to have a second story on it plus a roof, which makes it taller than the original dwelling.
Yeah, it just depends how tall your primary building is. So however many meters high, you know, is there enough meters there to get your garage and then a dwelling unit on top? So it really would depend on how high your primary building is.
And I get that the setback numbers is limiting. I mean, 7.5 meters is a substantial distance. But if you look at all of our new developments here in Petawawa, Limestone, Marquee subdivision, the lots are very close together. And most of these ARUs require that if you put something in the backyard, you have to have a wide enough area between the houses to allow for a walkway. And I think if you go through most of our subdivisions right now, they're so close together that there's not enough room for you to walk beside the house and get to an ARU in the back of a lot of these dwellings anyways. So I know the province wants more of these, but I think the way they've asked not only us, but everybody in the province to densify subdivisions, it's kind of eliminated our ability to provide ARUs according to all of the rules, just based on how tight the subdivisions are in new urban development. Am I kind of right about that?
It's trying to balance all the factors. We're trying to maintain some neighborhood character, as well as provide more housing. A point to remember too is we can try these, and if they're not working, if they're too limiting or something, we can always revisit it as well.
If you also look at the backyards in most of these new subdivisions, they're not very large. Not large enough to have an ARU, not wide enough to allow for the passage to get back there. So if you consider a town like Petawawa, most of our ARUs would be in the older subdivision areas or in the more rural settings to begin with, just based on the size of the lots and the densification of the properties in our new developments. So I think we're trying to do as much as we can within the rules, but here we are this evening. Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Adam. I think we could play with the rules and try and create more possibilities. I like the idea of big bylaw review, taking into account how things are going, JP2G's additional comments. I know that's happening anyways, but I also want to say I agree with Teresa that I agree those changes are minor. I thank you for all the work that went into reorganizing that enormous document. It's funny, I was reading them both together and it is more readable, the second version, but that represents a lot of work. So thank you for doing that. And so that's sort of my position right now. I'm happy to move this along as is, with the idea that later down the road we'll have another one of those, no doubt, policy discussions where we really get in deep about how we want to help people build more housing. But thank you.
Further questions or comments? Okay, so that brings us back to where we are this evening. So I'll read the motion here. It's that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw amending the zoning provisions for additional residential units in comprehensive zoning bylaw 456/07 as amended, as presented in either attachment 1, which is the original, or attachment 3, which has the 2 main changes. So if anybody's comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw amending the zoning provisions for additional residential units in comprehensive zoning bylaw 456/07 as amended, as presented in either attachment 1 or attachment 3. I'll call for the, oh, sorry.
We need to confirm or.
I gotta take out the
One.
attachment 1. In attachment 3. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Whew. Okay, so everybody's feeling good about that, and I think the one thing.
So because you chose attachment 3, you have to do the second recommendation as well about further public notice.
Okay, sorry. So I guess I need a motion, a further motion. And the Recommendation is that in accordance with section 34, paragraph 17 of the Planning Act, council determines that no further notice is required. So because we've talked about the two changes being minor, right now what we're deciding on is that we don't need to go with a public notice based on the fact that the two changes are minor in nature. So if you're comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that in accordance with section 34, paragraph 17 of the Planning Act, council determines that no further notice is required. Sounds like that needs more. Is that enough? That's good?
I'll wordsmith it if not.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, there are no other secret motions I need to know about? No?
You mean secret, it's in the report.
Okay, thanks Melanie and Noah. Next we have Public Works, PW-10-2025 Off-Road Vehicle Bylaw, 1597/23, the Phase 3 Survey Review. Chris and Don.
Thank you for having us back. So following direction from our March meeting, we did conduct our public survey, and we had exactly 700 responses, which I thought was rather good turnout. It was advertised on our website, our Facebook page 4 times, our electronic agenda package. We did have a print advertisement, and there was a newspaper print article and website articles as well to promote our public survey. Of our 700 responses, there was 90% that were in favor of expanding the Algonquin Trail off-road vehicle access route onto urban municipal roads east of Highway 17. So basically the roads that aren't private roads and don't already have access. Of those 700 respondents, we had 559 who self-identified as Petawawa residents. And again, it was 89% in favor of expanding. And narrowing it down further, those who self-identified as living in the actual urban area, it was again 89% in favor of expanding. Those who were in favor, the top 3 were to promote recreation and outdoor activities, it's better and or more direct access to the trails, and to reduce the need to trailer their off-road vehicles to access the trails. Of those 10 to 11% who were not in favor, reason being was the speeding or lack of enforcement, safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, and increase in noise. We identified the 11 urban municipal roads east of Highway 17 that had raised curbs, and those were identified as Albert Street, Canadian Forces Drive, Civic Center Road, Island View Drive, Leader Lane, Murphy Road from Petawawa Boulevard to Doran, and Petawawa Boulevard from Limestone Trail to Paquette towards the base. Portage Road, again, Petawawa Boulevard to Dustin, Town Center Boulevard, a Volunteer Way, and Wolf Avenue, the portion belonging to the town. Of those streets, the ones that received basically more votes that they should not have access to off-road vehicles, where we had 10 responses for Petawawa Boulevard and 8 responses for Murphy Road. I do want to note that access, though, on Murphy is already permitted on the west of Highway 17. And then we had 7 responses for Civic Center Road. I did have a question, as in, do you own or operate an off-road vehicle? And 74% were yes, of the 700. So I did attach all of the comments in the expanded section. I didn't include every comment within the front portion. So I hope you read those 30-some pages of comments. Again, I've been in communication with our insurer regarding risk management. So as previously reported, our insurer recommended that we do road surveys of the proposed roadways for phase 3, which have been conducted. Our insurer did comment that we have had good communication and engagement with our public regarding off-road vehicles. I was appreciative of that comment. Regarding the road inspection reports, our public works staff did do the secondary review of the roads that were involved in phase 2 from last year, so the rural roads, and Chris has reviewed those and has noted that there's no abnormal damage to any of the roads that may have been caused by off-road vehicle travel. For the roads in phase 3, again, inspections were conducted, and Chris is also of the opinion that there are no impediments that would negatively affect the operation of off-road vehicles on those urban roads east of Highway 17 within the proposed phase 3 designated routes. As part of this report, I wanted to see if there had been any studies or scientific anything on demographics of those who operate off-road vehicles and time of day use and such. And unfortunately, I could not find a scientific report for that. Mostly they're just for off-road vehicle collision statistics, where they would have a report on that. We theorized that those who would be operating would more than likely be in the evenings and on weekends. The only sample that we could review was from last October, which again was just on the Algonquin Trail. And again, the busiest days that were recognized from that small sample was Saturday and Friday and Sundays. But time of day was 12 to 4. So partly supported our theory, just not time. So following our review, some of the roads that we are suggesting that should be excluded from off-road vehicle access are, and we would actually identify a separate Appendix D so that people can go and say, okay, these are the roads I cannot go on whatsoever. Just these are our suggestions. So again, Garwin Street, the portion, sorry, I'm getting my directions mixed up here. The portion that is southwest of Petawawa Boulevard. So that is already implemented as part of phase 2 where they're not permitted. As again, that interferes with the operations of Shaw Lumber. Second road we've suggested is Industrial Avenue. We've looked at Leader Lane, Len Hopkins Drive, Paquette Road, and Petawawa Boulevard. So right now, we have a small section from Limestone to basically Ultramar gas station that's permitted. So we would be recommending that from the Ultramar all the way to Paquette, that it be restricted because the trail runs parallel with that portion and they don't need to drive on that part of the road. Sharon Street, again, is already implemented as part of phase 2 for the same reason as Garwin. And the other road is Water Tower Road. Okay, now, out of the 11 urban roads that had curbing, staff is suggesting that they be permitted on 9 of those roads. As you can see, we removed Petawawa Boulevard and Leader Lane. We looked at the mapping and residents who live, say, down at the point that, but onto Albert Street. Really, their only way of getting off the point is to go on to Albert Street. So that would be why we have suggested that. And basically with the other roads as well, is people live there and would need to use that road to access if council approves it. Other roads such as Canadian Forces Drive and Civic Center Road recommended for tourism and core services to access those businesses, and Petawawa Heritage Village, if there's being any like special off-road vehicle rides, you could have staging at the Civic Center. Okay, so out of all the urban roads east of 17, there's approximately 115 roads plus the ones that could still be added in, the curbed ones. So I provided that full list. So those are roads that we would suggest if council is going to move forward with a phase 3, that those 115 plus roadways be included. We would need to get permission from the County of Renfrew for, obviously, for the county roads. And again, bylaw would be amended following direction from council. And in the future, if we do have any new roads that are added into our road network, that we would amend the bylaw on an annual basis just for that. And that reason, if we're adding in any new roads. When I previously had spoken about private roads, I accidentally did miss Pinehurst Estates. So I just wanted to bring that back forward because it does come out onto Portage Road as well as Petawawa Boulevard. So again, it is private property. And we did install signs on the Garwin and Sharon sections, so which we could also do for Pinehurst Estates if they choose not to have any off-road vehicle access in their area. Okay, so then I did highlight Appendix A of roadways that could be added. This would be more so to get people to access across Highway 17 to the Barron Canyon Road system and trails. So Doran Road from Murphy to Highway 17 and Murphy Road from Doran to Highway 17, where we already have Black Bay Road from Petawawa Boulevard to 17. And there would be 2 new intersections to request permission from the county for crossing the boulevard. So I did include Norman Street at Petawawa Boulevard and Fred Street in anticipation of our construction of the new entrance for Norman Street to access the comfort station. And then secondly, Victoria Street at Petawawa Boulevard and Portage Road should it be approved. So currently there are 4 items that staff is seeking direction from council on. Mainly is, does council want to allow ORV access on the 9 urban roads with raised curbs, so the 9 that we identified out of the 11? Does council want to restrict off-road vehicle access on the following roads that I had previously listed for Appendix D? Does council want to allow off-road vehicle access on that full list, the over 115 roads? And does council want to amend Appendix A and B as previously indicated? And then following direction from council, then we can prepare the necessary amendments for the bylaw. Thank you.
What a report.
So thanks, Chris, and I'm sure Don, for all of this work. And I know that you had to get it done in a hurry. So thank you very much for putting all of this together. So there's 4 things that we have to deal with. So without delving too deep into these 4 issues that we have at hand, are there any general questions that council may have before we deal with each of these 4 items? Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, reiterate your thank you. Thank you to the staff across the board, though. I really want to give a shout out to those who undertook the road condition review. So I read every word, every word. And I really appreciate all of the time, all of the energy. And I really want everyone to know that Petawawa is well served by many engaged professionals. Like, we are really well served. And I appreciate, Gary, you don't want us to delve deep, but my comments are kind of very about bigger topics than what you're going to delve deep into. So I'll just ask for everyone's indulgence. My comments will take 6 minutes or less, and then we can get to giving some more fine direction to our fine staff. So basically, I want to start by just referencing the advice provided to the town by our insurance provider. So everyone was provided with the same risk management considerations for off-road vehicles on municipal roads. We're all provided with that document. And one of the recommendations for risk management was that the public and ORV user groups be consulted for their input. So again, big thank you to Dawn for the excellent efforts running the survey, compiling that information that the survey provided. So the survey was clearly very well circulated among the ORV community, but unfortunately did not have as much visibility with residents who don't have ATVs. But in the end, it doesn't matter because the survey was about information gathering. It was not designed to be statistically representative, and I love the information that we got. So I just want to review a couple of things because I'm so pleased that residents could be heard, and we took the time to do this. So it was reported that opening most roads in Petawawa to ORV traffic would benefit our residents by increasing recreational opportunities. And I want to point out something that didn't occur to me before is that persons with mobility issues, it's easier for them to get on their ATV, get to the trail instead of trailering it. And I hadn't thought of that before. So this definitely will increase recreational opportunities. It'll create that convenience for residents not having to trailer their ORVs, and it'll help with the problem of the lack of parking for trailers at trailheads. However, through the survey, residents also reported issues about expanding ATV access in town. So these included issues related to enforcement, pedestrian and children's safety and conflict with ORVs, excessive noise related to modified exhausts, ORVs cutting through private property. Residents unfortunately reported speeding, unsafe driving, ORV owners driving under the influence without licenses, plates, lights at night, ORVs on Civic Center property at Jack Pine Park. They're concerned about the impact of expanding access on traffic and congestion and the safety of roads for school children, worried about the cost of enforcement, the impact of our road conditions and safety overall. So I want to say that I believe that the majority of people who ride ORVs are responsible and follow the rules. But the problem is those who are unsafe, and unfortunately they are in this mix as well. So this decision is more than about whether or not ORVs are a fun form of recreation. And this is because expanding ORV access will have an impact on our staff resources, our police detachments calls for service, the risks on the road for our residents, the condition of our roads, and this is really important to me, our town's liability as a corporation. So just touching briefly on those issues before I conclude. So calls for service. It is unfortunately the case. So there are people who are unsafe, as has been reported by our residents. So the more roads that are open to ORV traffic, the more overflow we will see of ORVs in places like parks, civic center, other green spaces where they should not be. So the OPP have given us warnings and statements on expanding ORV access in the past, advising us that calls to service will increase, and warning us that without clear language around travel routes, the requirements of the bylaw might be unenforceable. So that leads me to enforcement. Residents may understand that ORVs are to be driven on the road to access the trail only. However, when visitors come to our town and see ORVs driving on most of our roads, the requirement to be transiting to and from the residents to a trail won't be clear. So education and enforcement for visitors will be a challenge if we expand access. And I would like to hear more from the Operato Valley OPP detachment on how they could support enforcement of the need for ORVs to be insured, licensed, plated, and only be transiting to and from the trail. So finally, my last little review is liability and staff resources. So under the regulations, an ORV is to operate on the shoulder of the highway, unless the shoulder is not wide enough or there is no shoulder. So under the Municipal Act, Section 44.2 sets out that a municipality that breaches its obligation to keep its roads in a reasonable state of repair is subject to an action for damages pursuant to the Negligence Act. And this is because the principle of joint and several liability means that in any given accident where the condition of the road may be an issue, the town will be named. We have the deepest pockets. So given this reality, I am comforted by the fact that we have an exceptional public works department in every role, from leadership, management, and crew. However, this new use will require more attention to our road shoulders to make sure they are fit for the dual ORV and vehicle use. So our insurer has recommended to strengthen our risk management of road inspection reports by documenting the actions taken and maintaining records of any identified risk or hazard and defect, and again, what the action was taken to mitigate that, and where a risk or hazard cannot be mitigated, the town may want to prohibit ORV use in these locations. So again, I'm going to say it again and again, excellent effort on the road inspection report. This report summarized the condition assessment of the pavement, the shoulders, the hazards, but the road specialists for the town's insurer have flagged that the town will need to demonstrate it has done due diligence and taken steps to both review and address any potential hazards. So I think that the hazard piece needs a closer examination. And this is specifically when we're looking at busy roads with concerns for vulnerable road users such as Woodland Crescent, Spruce Street, Oak Street, Mary Street, John Street, or where there are sightline issues identified. So the town's insurer also identified that ORVs may be more vulnerable to roadway hazards such as potholes, cracks on the surface. And for this reason, the insurer has recommended that we proceed with caution. And this is because of all the reasons they've already listed. But one of them is, I mean, most ORVs typically do not have access to urban centers in Ontario municipalities, and it's because of these issues and liabilities. So I'm just going to say in summary, the Algonquin Trail brings tourists to Petawawa, and I support opening up access to Petawawa's businesses to these visitors. I also support facilitating our residents' access to the trail, and this is why I voted in favor of the bylaw that opened up all the roads west of the highway and opened select roads in town so that businesses could be accessed from the trail, and so our residents could access the trail better. But we need to create a compromise between conflicting uses that considers the town's resources, commitments, and liabilities. And so I think we should attract ORVs to our town, but I think we've done so already with the bylaw as is. So my position is that we continue to keep ORV traffic from Petawawa's core and densely settled neighborhoods because of these issues identified related to enforcement, conflicting uses, staff resources, liabilities, and costs. And I thank you so much for your attention. I'm done.
Thanks, Councillor Coutu. And perhaps I'll give Chris, our Director of Public Works, a chance maybe to address the comment or the question, I guess, as it was worded. Do you feel comfortable with yourself and your staff and your ability to ensure roads are inspected, you know, on a regular basis, and that whether it's a shoulder or a curb or a road condition or a pothole, that we're going to maintain and have it at the upkeep levels that are warranted so that ORVs can safely use it? And I guess that proper documentation is done as well. Is this too much of a burden on your staff or something you can easily handle? Is it part of your regular routine?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Service. So I think the best way to look at this is where we started. And I have to admit, when this process began with phase one, as a road supervisor, I was a little concerned how it would roll out and effects on roadways, along with public safety. I would say that as we move through phase one and phase two, I think most of those concerns have been dealt with. I think our staff done a good job of reviewing our road network, checking the safety of our roads. I believe that if we do move forward with phase three, obviously we're going to have to implement annual inspections to keep up with looking at how ORVs are impacting our town. Are there safety concerns? Are there areas on these roads where we need additional signage perhaps? Or do we look at other mitigation efforts? But that depends on whether we have concerns or incidents. So as far as the first two phases go, I think they've rolled out really well. And I haven't seen big concerns or any damage to our roadways. We have the staff resources I'm confident that we can meet those demands moving forward into phase 3 if council adopts to move forward with further roads for ORV access. But I agree with Councillor Coutu. We have to be cognizant of the fact that there are certain risks involved, and we have to do our best as a staff and as professionals, as road supervisors. We need to do a really good job of inspecting and maintaining our roadways to mitigate risks, not just for ORVs, but for everyone, for drivers, for people, pedestrians. E-bikes are becoming more and more prevalent around town. But I'm confident we can meet those demands and reduce the risk to an appropriate level.
Okay, I'll just throw this out for somebody to answer. I'm not sure who can, because Councillor Coutu also mentioned some concerns about enforcement, education, maybe even communication with the OPP and our bylaw officers. So if this does indeed get passed, what is the education like for the community? What is the communication between us and the OPP, between us and our bylaw officers? And I guess I have a follow-up question. To what level can our bylaw officers enforce any of these rules and regulations on the road? Is it nothing? Is it all an OPP responsibility?
Under the Highway Traffic Act, it wouldn't be our bylaw officers, it is the OPP.
Go ahead, Don.
Sorry, just for follow-up, our bylaw officers cannot, they don't have authority to stop a moving vehicle. The bylaw officers can enforce if there's off-road vehicles accessing municipal parks or our parks bylaw and such. Witness it, they take license plate, they can follow the vehicle to their residence. They do work with the OPP in those situations as well. So they can enforce our municipal bylaws for municipal property.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is they will have a role to play, just not similar or to the OPP. Okay, I'll open it up for more questions or comments. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. And thank you, Don, for this very comprehensive report. It was very well done, as usual. I've said this before, but I am not a fan of government by plebiscite. And I think Edmund Burke said it best. Edmund Burke, I mean, your elected official owes you not only hard work, but also sound judgment. And an elected official betrays his constituent rather than serving them if he sacrifices that sound judgment to their opinion. And in this case, the sacrifice has already been made. We decided we're going to the public, and they have told us exactly what they want. In my mind, the debate ended when we decided to do a survey. So we have to implement what the public has asked us to do. I consider myself a delegate here with a position given to me by the public. It's not something I can decide on. We've already gone to the survey route. So the time for debate is over. It was before that. So I'm going to be in favor of doing exactly what the public has requested of us.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Sabourin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Don. You're well known for your extensive and exhaustive and not a stone uncovered reporting. So thank you very much. I didn't have a question. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot. 115 roads. Wow. Anyways, through you to Chris, if I could. Chris, one of the questions that I had was, and I think you answered it, we may need to go to annual road review, condition reviews, and that was going to be a question that I had. Are we doing them annually? I think that probably we need that needs to occur. And so I just want to get your confirmation on that approach for the future to keep up on making sure that the roads are safe for all users.
Yep, through the chair. So we've consistently completed annual surveys of our roads, but until the ORV adoption, we weren't actually recording it on a report form. It would have been done through the minimum maintenance standards through our patrolling. So the ORV adoption is actually improved, in my opinion. It's improved how we're inspecting our roads annually, so that whether or not council moves to adopt phase 3, my plan for the department is to continue the annual survey of roads regardless, because I think it's been a worthwhile exercise for staff to get, you come out of the winter season and it's really good practice to review all of your road network and prepare appropriately for your summer maintenance season and take care of those deficiencies that you notice. So yeah, we're going to continue that process moving forward.
Thank you for that, Chris. I guess from my perspective, it's up to our ORV users to follow the rules to make sure that the decisions that we have reached, if we decide to go in favor of this, continue. I mean, it really is up to these people who drive these off-road vehicles to make sure that they are doing what they need to do to keep themselves and others safe and following our rules. So, and I think education is important, and I think that making sure that people know what's expected, that enforcement is there, and if at some point the enforcement becomes so cumbersome, we can always say, you know what, these are the roads that we have to take off this list, or for this reason. I mean, it'll be in the data. It'll be in the data. So I am comfortable moving forward to the next step, and I want to thank you very much for all the work and effort and that has been put into this report, and thank you to all the residents. 500 residents drive an ORV that responded to the survey, if my math is correct, thereabouts. 200 didn't, but I do want to say thank you also, Don, for putting the print advertisement into the paper. It was my request, because I said not everybody's on website and stuff like that. So, it was certainly out there for folks to be able to provide their opinions. So I just like to thank everybody for the opinions and feedback that we got.
Thank you. And just a quick comment, I appreciate Councillor Carmody's comments about when you do a survey and you get the results back. Generally, if people are asking for something and it's an overwhelming majority, well then council's job is to grant that wish. However, just put a little asterisk on the statistics there. 74% of the respondents are ORV owners. 6% of them are going to buy one. So that's 80% of the respondents are in favor of what we're asking already. So just keep in mind that it's a little bit skewed, and hey, everybody had the right and the chance to respond. It just seems like more of the respondents were ORV owners or people who are planning to buy an ORV. Okay, other comments? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don, thank you very much for the report. Very, very detailed. Definitely setting a standard for how reports like this can become forward. But anyways, I think for me, I think this is a no-brainer. Realistically, I would like to see this 3 years ago, but we've walked, we've jogged, and now we're going to run. I think, I knew she said so. Anyways, close enough. So yeah, I think we have to move forward with this. I mean, it is overwhelming. Yes, most people do own them, but most people who answer any survey, it's something that directly impacts them and they choose to answer it. So if someone didn't choose to answer this survey, they consciously made a decision not to, or it doesn't affect them near as much as that, so they didn't need to. One modification I would like to have a discussion on would be Industrial Avenue. Strictly on the point of where you discussed about Island Park Drive or even Albert Street. And this was going to be my discussion on, say you're living on Butler or wherever, to get to your closest route to the Algonquin Trail. If you live on, Labine Crescent or on William Thomas, and you're going to the trails on Barron Canyon Road or end of Black Bay Road. You're not going to drive down through all the way to the trail and then up Black Bay Road when you can travel down a road that's, what, 1.5 kilometers long with no houses on it in an industrial sector that should be able to handle that traffic. It just seems like one of those roads that people are going to drive down them because Black Bay Road's right there. My house is at the other end of the road. Why would I do a horseshoe loop when I can drive straight across, especially on a non-residential road? I'm perfectly fine with all the other ones. They make total sense. And I would just like to say that I know this has been a long process, but I think it's been well undertaken. I think this road survey, I was hesitant at first because it seems like it's always one more step, but it also does give us a really clear picture documented of how our roads are that can be used for more things than just this. The road condition of an ATV is where I do have a sticking point. It's like a 400-pound vehicle on rubber tires. I live on Black Bay Road. Your theorizing of times of day use is pretty well bang on. I watch every vehicle go by my house off the Algonquin Trail, and Saturdays and Sundays are busy, Friday nights. Other than that, you get the odd person. But we also have, so Black Bay Road is a prime example. What leaves the public works yard is a slow-moving vehicle. We have a front-end loader, which is several ton, or backhoe, several ton that travel on the shoulder of the road. So they are going to create more damage in the same way on any road in Petawawa than an ORV will. And I mean, Portage Road, prime example, coming out of a construction yard. That road is not in great condition, but what caused that? Would it be all the construction vehicles on it? Quite possibly. Would an ORV do more damage than construction vehicles on a road? Highly unlikely. So to have that as a stipulation, I think, I'm glad we're moving forward, but it just seems a little unnecessary, in my opinion. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Coutu.
Thank you. If you'll just indulge me. So just to have a representative sample, it needs to be exactly that. So a representative sample. So this is not at all a survey. This was an information gathering exercise to find out what are the issues, because we are only, 7 people, and we're limited by the extent of our experiences, by the circles we're in, by the echo chambers we live in. So putting this out to the community, letting strangers that you've never met give you their opinion on something that's going to impact them. It's not a survey, it's an information gathering exercise, and I'm very pleased that we did it. So that's it. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, so I think we have 4 items here that we need to deal with, but I think if I can ask just a broad general question about phase 3, because I think before we can delve into these 4 specific items, I think we need a general consensus from council is, do we wish to move forward in a broad general sense with phase 3? I think we need to do that before we start picking apart different roads and things. And I know it's not one of the resolutions, so how do I deal with that, Colin? Do I just go for a nod of heads so I can continue? Or do I need a different?
Through you, Gary, to council, I think one of the bullet points basically is adopting phase 3. The third bullet point, you're allowing it on all lists of urban roads that Don had provided. So I think you almost need to take these 4, get consensus on them, in my opinion, and put them together in one resolution. And that will provide the direction for Don and Chris to bring forward the bylaw. Unless council thinks something else.
Because the way I look at bullet 3, that was just the list of 115 roads. And then the other bullets dealt with curb roads, and then we're also dealing with staff's recommendation that we don't go on a couple of roads. Like, none of them really deal in a broader sense with let's push phase 3 forward. So can I just ask council for a nod of heads? Who's in favor? Or do I ask for a raise of hands? I just want to make sure I'm following protocol. Yeah. I can ask for a raise of hands? Yeah. And even though it's not an actual resolution. Okay. So just to get general, would you like to go ahead?
Sorry, I was just going to say, from the March 10th meeting, that was the consensus of council, was to move forward with phase 3, but before making the final decision was to do this.
So what you're telling me is that we've already actually voted on moving phase 3 ahead, but we asked for staff to come back with all of these stipulations. Okay. So I don't need to ask for the nods of heads this evening. Thank you for steering me in the right direction, Don. Okay, so I think the easiest one to start with right now is the second bullet, because staff has given us a recommendation of roads that they are recommending we don't include. We've already heard from Councillor Driscoll that he would like to see Industrial Avenue stay in phase 3 and not be included on the list of roads that we're restricting access to. So I guess I'm looking for comments from anybody else on bullet number 2, the roads that staff has recommended we restrict. Are there any comments with those? Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. And this is part of the reason that I dislike surveys, because what we were told was, basically don't restrict it on any roads. However, there are some that there are safety issues, right? Like Leader Lane. You don't want ORVs down there. It's a pretty congested area, and the Shaw lumber thing, that's another safety issue. Paquette, I could see being a safety issue there, and there's not really anywhere to go on an ATV on Paquette Road anyway. So there are some roads that we should restrict due to safety conditions, and obviously Petawawa Boulevard, because the trail is running adjacent to it. So I would say restrict Petawawa Boulevard, Leader, Paquette, and the one that dealt with Shaw lumber, whichever one that was.
And Sharon.
Those two. Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapper.
Thank you, Mr. I guess I'm just trying to understand Councillor Driscoll's rationale for industrial road. Is it road? Avenue. Just because if you're on Black Bay, the straightest route is right up Black Bay. If you're in that other
New Street.
yeah, exactly. It's up the street to the trail. And then if you're in the newer subdivision behind the food basics and whatnot, it's down the street. So I'm just trying to understand why you would have to go down Industrial Boulevard, because you can access it anywhere. It might just be for convenience, and I'm just trying to understand.
Councillor Driscoll.
I think the biggest thing is you're thinking of it as only going to the trail, the Algonquin Trail, but we have multiple trail systems, such as one right at the end of Black Bay Road. So if I want to leave my house on William Thomas Drive, and I don't want to have to go down the trail to Black Bay Road and all the way up Black Bay Road, I realistically am going to look down Industrial Road, see there's absolutely nothing there to Black Bay Road, and that is my shortest route. So it's just it's a convenience thing, the same way as listed for some of these other streets. It is the shortest route for that pocket of areas, and if there's nothing on that road anyways, and if our most common times of use are Saturdays and Sundays, the industrial road is even quieter. So that's my only reasoning.
I think just for clarification, it's just access out to the B trails out at the end of Black Bay Road is what you're accessing by going down Industrial Avenue. Chris, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to maybe provide a bit of clarification on industrial, and it may have been a little easier if it was grouped with Water Tower Road. So at the end of Water Tower Road, there are a lot of trails that are not town trails, not town maintained trails. And there has been a lot of sales of property within our industrial park. So the use of those trails is becoming more and more of an issue with private property issues. So when we restricted access on Water Tower Road, we also included industrial with that to keep that area, keep the ORVs from accessing those unsanctioned trails in our industrial park. That was, so I think they're separated in the report, but maybe if they were put together, there would be a bit more wholesome understanding of what the reasoning was from staff's perspective on that.
So I guess I'll add to that. So there's a hydro line that runs through our industrial area, and a lot of ORVs have been using the hydro line. And on top of that, because our industrial area has not been developed over the years, but it is now becoming much more developed. There's actually not a lot of property left there. But there are a lot of trails that wind through the woods back there, and for people to access them, they would have to go down Water Tower Road. So I understand why you would limit access to that, and I understand your rationale for Industrial Avenue. Okay, any other comments about the roads that staff has recommended to restrict? Councillor Driscoll.
Just one comment on, so on Industrial Avenue, we have 2 separate storage unit buildings, which people who live in an apartment or built for rental units probably don't have room for an ATV, so they probably would be storing it in a storage unit. So how do they gain access? Are they now being required to trailer from their storage unit to a trailhead, or will they be able to use Industrial Avenue? My whole thing is, if we're gonna eliminate this, it's just one more road that can be seen as someone driving down it, and then there can be a complaint based on it on a road that someone's not allowed to be on when it is a low use road to begin with. That's my position on that.
Okay, so let's take a look at this list then. What I'm hearing really is Industrial Avenue is the only contentious road that's on this list of roads that our staff has recommended to restrict ORV access on. So what I'm hearing is everybody is good with Garwin, Leader Lane, Len Hopkins, Paquette, the Boulevard, Sharon, and Water Tower Road. How does everybody feel about taking industrial off the restricted list and putting it into phase 3? So let's go with a show of hands. Who would like Industrial Avenue to stay within bullet 2 as one of the restricted roads? And who would like Industrial Avenue to come out of the restricted list? Okay. So I guess when we vote on this, are we voting on each bullet point separately?
I prefer one resolution that would capture all 4 bullet points.
You would like that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave that one as is. And if there are members of council that are unhappy with that one, then I guess that may determine how they vote here. Okay, let's go to the first bullet then. We're looking at 9 urban roads that have raised curbs: Albert Street, Canadian Forces Drive, Civic Center Road, Island View Drive, Murphy Road, the section from the Boulevard to Dorn, Portage Road from the Boulevard to Destin Drive, Town Center Boulevard, Volunteer Way, and Wolf Avenue from Victoria Street around to where the ownership of our portion of Wolf ends as it enters the PMQs. Comments, questions on that bullet point? Councillor Carmen.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Allow them all. That's my only comment.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Those on the first bullet point. Okay, I guess I'm going to be the stickler here. I'm just wondering why anybody on an ORV would need access to Wolf Avenue. All there are 3 apartment buildings, so nobody there would have an ATV or ORV because there's only parking for their vehicles. There's no other houses on that road. How is anybody using Wolf Avenue to get to the Algonquin Trail is my question. Because we're allowing them, well, through the county, we'll be allowing them use of Victoria Street. So who is coming down Wolf Avenue on an ATV to get to the Algonquin Trail? That's my question.
Wolf Avenue was included due to the apartment location of the apartment buildings, because even though they do live in an apartment, they could own an off-road vehicle.
Any other questions or comments on Wolf? Councillor Kerman?
You could conceivably come off of Mountains onto Wolf over to Victoria.
Okay. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of appetite to get that one out of there. All right. The other one I have questions about is Civic Center Road. So anybody who lives down at the point whether it's Albert or East Street or any of the streets at the point, we're giving you access up Victoria Street to get to the Algonquin Trail. Nobody down there needs to come up the Laurentian Drive Hill. They can all access the trail by going to Victoria Street. There are a dozen houses around the ski hill area there. Those would be the only ones that would have an ATV that would need access to the trail. They could drive 200 meters past Civic Center Road and go up the hydro line and get to Algonquin Trail.
That'd be trespassing.
Or they could swipe that from the record. They could go to Limestone Trail and turn down that road and go up. I'm just worried about that curb street that has school buses, kids. It's one of our busiest roads, especially during the day. And I just don't feel it's safe to have ATVs on Civic Center Road. I know that we allow them access to the Dairy Queen from the other end, but this is different. This is down where the schools are. Everybody in the Limestone area can travel through the Limestone subdivision, get to Limestone, and get themselves to the trail. So I guess what I'm suggesting is, why do we need access to Civic Center Road when there are other places they can go? Councillor Carmody.
From a safety perspective, cars and trucks are a lot more dangerous than the handful of ORVs that are going to be on Civic Center Road. There's, like, in perspective, it's just not there.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I don't have a problem with that road, and they'll be driving 20 kilometers an hour on that road, not 50. Thank you.
Councillor Driscoll.
I think my biggest thing is, if I were to live on Highland Park Drive, instead of going out of Highland Park Drive and driving down a road with no residences, and our most busy times of Friday night, Saturdays, and Sundays when there's no school in session, I now have to, on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, drive through Highland Park, Greenville, in their Limestone, where there's countless houses, kids playing on the road. So if we're talking about a safety factor, eliminating it really creates a much higher safety factor than driving down a road with no residences on it.
Any further comments? So it sounds like we're leaving that one in there. Okay. So let's go to bullet point number 3. That was, does council want to allow ORV access on the full list of urban roads, which was the 115 other streets? Questions or comments on that?
51 adding industrial.
151
adding industrial.
16?
6 or whatever.
116. We've added industrial. Questions or comments on that? Councillor Carmody.
Yes.
Glad you're keeping it brief. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? And the 4th bullet was, does council want to amend Appendix A and Appendix B as indicated above, which is the entire package? Questions or comments on that one? Okay, so it looks like we're ready to go with the whole resolution, which is all 4 bullets. So if you're comfortable, I need a motion. With the amendment of industrial on the full list of urban roads, yes. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Driscoll. The council provide direction on phase 3 by, do I read all 4 bullet points?
I just modified them to say that council allows OVR access on the 9 urban roads as listed, and that council restricts OVR access on the following roads as we indicated by removing industrial. And then that council allows OVR access on the full list of urban roads east of Highway 17 as indicated, and that council amends Appendix A and Appendix B as indicated above.
Okay, so I just have to change a couple words there. Okay, so the council provide direction on phase 3 by allowing ORV access on the 9 urban roads with raised curbs: Albert Street, Canadian Forces Drive, Civic Center Road, Island View Drive, Murphy Road from Petawawa Boulevard to Dorn Road, Portage Road from Petawawa Boulevard to Dustin Drive, Town Center Boulevard, Volunteer Way, and Wolf Avenue from Victoria Street around the curve to the snowplow turnaround. And further, the council restricts ORV access on the following roads: Garwin Street, Leader Lane, Len Hopkins Drive, Paquette Road, Petawawa Boulevard from 2,991 Petawawa Boulevard northwest to Paquette Road, Sharon Street, and Water Tower Road. And further, the council allows ORV access on the full list of urban roads east of Highway 17, including Industrial Drive. And further, that council will amend Appendix A and Appendix B as indicated above. How'd I do? Okay. Whew, I think we're ready to vote. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Well, that was certainly democracy in action right there, I must say. Okay, so Chris and Don, thank you very much again for all of your work. It really helps us make a decision when the job is so thoroughly done by both of you. So thanks again for everything that you prepared for us this evening. Okay, we're ready to move on. Next up is our Legislative Services Report.
Very exciting.
Monthly Activity Report for March. Colin, it's your time to shine.
I don't know. Thank you, Mayor Service. Through you to council, that's a hard act to follow. My report doesn't look as good as that, I don't believe, but I'll do my best. As mentioned last month, I revised my monthly report slightly to help provide some more information on the various aspects within my department, such as my recent acquisition, if you want to call it, of the IT department and HR to name a couple. So you'll see some, those will be added into my monthly report going forward. So I just want to, hopefully this will give council a little bit of a more wholesome report, and they can see what all the aspects that Legislative Services Department do on a monthly basis. So under animal control, we had 3 reports of stray animals, 1 cat and 2 dogs on the Swans Road and the Wrench Drive, and those animals were received and returned to the OSPCA. We had 1 complaint of an excessive dog barking, and the animal control officer attended and provided a verbal warning. I'll move over under parking. We had 39 parking infraction pins issued in the month of March. We had 1 written warning for parking in an accessible space with an expired permit. Under burning, I think Acting Chief Prue earlier this evening commented on this in his report, but we had 4 provincial offensive notices issued to a resident on Spruce Street for burning without a permit and recreational fire exceeding maximum height. That trial was held on February, and that individual was found guilty on all 4 charges. Under property standards, we had a discussion on March 4th with commissioners in regards to a hoarding complaint. And we had a follow-up meeting that month with the Fire Marshal's office, which I attended, along with Acting Chief Prue and Deputy Chief Jamie Knott and Fire Inspection Officer Simon Brooks. And we determined that there's a path forward on, there was three actual hoarding issues for the town. 1 resolved itself, and the 2 are still in the works, but we can take measures under the fire code to hopefully resolve these 2 issues. I added for this monthly report the vehicle for hire licensing and permitting. So this will be on months going forward when there's additional driver applications that are approved or vehicles as we go forward. But you'll see that the revenue was received in the month for $1,560 for vehicle applications and $125 for driver applications. All the licenses were vetted and meet the current bylaws, meet our town's current bylaw and the provincial requirements. Under Human Resources, on March the 7th, we had a Appreciation Day, which I believe most of the council, if not all council, was here for that. And we did the service awards as well. On March the 27th, we arranged and attended I arranged and attended a family band meeting. That's a subcommittee of the multi-joint health and safety committee. And that's in regards to the banning of individuals in some of our parks, specifically our civic center grounds. So that's under works, and we'll have more to report on that in the future. There's some IT information there. I won't get into it all right now, but we're here in Esh is working, our IT coordinator, on getting us to go to the cloud eventually. So there's a migration, and there's some cloud storage planning that's all in the works. So more to come in that in the future. Under Commissioner votes, we had 43 requests in the month of March. There was 4 that were declined due to they were land transfer documents or child support court applications, which we don't do commissioning on. We had 3 licenses in the month of March under marriages, and the revenue's there. And I added this extra column. It's the certificate request. We had 15 requests that we completed for the month. Those are certificate of recognitions that come from the mayor's office. So we had those added as well. And then under meetings and other activities, you'll see a long list of meetings that either myself or Jody or Kate attended in the month and took part in. I will just touch on the first couple points in the meeting dates. Back in February, the end of February, we had our completion of the joint RFP for the internet and telephone voting system. With it's made up of our 9 municipalities. And we also had a meeting on February the 27th to discuss the election portal and how we're going to handle that going forward. There's a list of other meetings there, so I'd happy to take any questions if council has any. Thank you.
Questions on the report? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question, then we're going to bring it back to ATVs. I know we had that contract with Protect 5 to actually enforce speed. Is that, am I right on that? We did that last year. Are we doing that again for a certain amount of days?
I believe that contract with Protect 5 was through the county on Algonquin Trail. So I don't know, maybe Mayor Service knows if they're doing that again this year or not.
So when they initially contracted Protect 5 to enforce trail rules and laws and all that sort of thing, there was talk about them getting a radar gun to do speed enforcement, but that did not take place. So Protect 5 did not have radar and was not licensed or able to enforce speed on Algonquin Trail. What they could do is visually see somebody speeding, but even then, they couldn't do any enforcement in terms of speed. It would have to be turned over to the OPP. So what they were merely looking for was trail passes, insurance, licenses, motorbikes, which were illegal, and that sort of thing. And I guess dangerous driving and all those sorts of things. The county, I guess I can tell you at this point that the county has upped the number of hours for 2025 in terms of enforcement. I can't remember how many additional hours they're adding to it, but the main points of enforcement are near the larger urban centers like Petawawa, Arnprior, Renfrew, Pembroke. So although there will be some enforcement in some of the more rural areas, it's that they're trying to center it around the urban areas where the speed limits are lower and where safety is a bigger concern. Yeah, but I'll find out what the increased enforcement level is. Questions on the report? I have one quick question for you. You mentioned that we're joining in with 9 total municipalities in terms of internet and telephone voting. Do you know the other? I guess it's 8 plus us.
Yeah, correct. It's the same municipalities as we did in 2022. It's just in the terms of the RFP that we put out for tender to get a provider. Each municipality will obviously have their own costs associated depending on, I think in my last report that I brought before council for the alternative voting method, that's really what it's for. We had votes in 2022, and so we established a contract with votes just like every other 9 municipality would do, or 8 I should say, and theirs is geared to whether they had tabulators or whether they didn't, whether they had paper ballots or if they didn't, and then so that's basically what we're doing. It's just we put out one application for the provider, so we're all using the same internet provider for the election.
That doesn't necessarily mean that those other 8 municipalities are just doing phone and internet. They are providing that, but they also may be providing another service.
Correct. Whichever municipality, whichever they decided to adopt within their own municipality is what they will be presented in the RFP. That's why I had to get that to you before we put the RFP out, so I knew the council was in agreement to go paperless, for example.
Any other questions on the report? Then I need a motion to accept it. Moved by Councillor Root, second by Councillor Donovan, that the Legislative Services Monthly Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have a draft letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing concerning the strong mayor powers. So I'm not going to go into a long discourse here about how we feel about strong mayor powers. I think we covered that in depth at our last meeting. And I think we're all in agreement that it's not something we wish for the town. So this is a draft of a letter that we hope to send to the Honorable Minister Rob Flack, letting them know our feelings, I guess is the clearest way that I can put it. So we have chosen to write this letter, not only to confirm that we are not in favor of extending the strong mayor powers to our municipality, but also that we'd like to let the minister know and the provincial government know that we feel we are doing everything we can as a council. And I think we discussed it last week in saying that, you know, we're all individuals with different skill sets, different levels of knowledge, different values, but I think we bring all of that together and work in congruence with each other to advance the provincial mandates in terms of building houses and extending our services and making sure that there's intensification in our town. We are trying to do everything we can. We are trying to move things forward. And I think you'll also notice that we've added in our letter that we've increased our staffing levels in our building and planning department to help move all of these files forward quicker. So I think everything the province has asked us to do, we have together as a council taken the steps necessary to move all these mandates forward here in the town of Petawawa. We've included all of our building statistics, all of our permit statistics to show the province that we are taking all the steps necessary to do whatever we can to build more homes, build them faster, and intensification in our community. But I think most importantly in our letter, we've also added a request from the province that says, thank you for the extension of strong mayor powers, but no thanks, we don't think we need it for all of those reasons that I just said. But we have extended a request to them that we do need help in other ways. We have a smaller tax base and it costs a lot of money to extend water and sewer services in our town. And it's a huge burden to put on our taxpayers to extend water and sewer a couple kilometers. We're talking millions and millions of dollars, which is a tax increase that our tax base can't afford. So we've said to the government, there are ways that you can help us. I understand that there's grant programs out there, but here's how you can help us. Provide us with funding opportunities, provide it with grant opportunities that we can apply for and be successful at to extend these services so that we can have new subdivisions, new developments, and that they can be densified, not on septic, not on wells. We've also included, although it's not in the agenda, we're going to bring up the other letter as well.
Everyone has a copy of it.
Everyone has a copy. So this is basically a copy of a letter that was sent to the government from the municipality of Amherstburg. So this is a more formal resolution in terms of what we can send out to provincial government. So I guess the question we have here is we have the letter that we've drafted, and we also have this resolution, which is a very similar to the one sent by Amherstburg to the provincial government. So what we're deciding here tonight, I don't need to read through this whole letter, right? Okay. Because usually when you do a resolution like that, you read the whole thing. I'll come to you in 1 second. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we're deciding tonight is, do we want to send both the letter and the resolution? Do we want to just send one or the other? It's what we need to decide as a council, but we are under a time constraint. What is the deadline that we're supposed to get this?
May 1st. So the legislation goes into, or is enacted on May the 1st.
Is there something else you wanted to comment on?
No, I just wanted to make mention, you know, what we've really said to them in both documents is to remove the community from the list of communities under the expansion of the legislation, or the amendment of the legislation. We don't want to be listed, similar to what Amherstburg has done in what did in their resolution, which we modified for our use.
But I just wanted to comment further on what the mayor gave you, and that, you know, we've said to the province, yeah, we don't need strong mayor powers. What we need you to do is pay or provide us access to funding, extend services to keep up with the development we're already experiencing. And if you want intensification, that's how it gets done in rural Ontario. So I really would strongly suggest that we send the letter that was drafted, because it does provide them with some direction on the help that we actually do need. But both documents make the request that we be removed from the list of communities under the amendment that's been proposed.
I'm not going to go through all the whereases, but the key paragraph in this resolution is right down to the second one from the bottom, where it says, therefore be it resolved that the Petawawa Town Council formally requests that the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing immediately remove the town of Petawawa from the list of municipalities designated under the strong mayor legislation. Councillor Carmody, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say we should send a letter as well as pass the resolution. And I was kind of mulling over whether we should send the resolution out. Like, you know, often we get resolutions from other councils, let's say, asking for support. But this resolution specifically mentions Petawawa, so it's not something that any other council could endorse. Or so I guess that wouldn't be possible, but definitely do both.
CAO?
Yeah, actually, we've CC'd all other Ontario municipalities in this, and it shows that we've taken up the banner and said, yeah, us too. And so they're aware that Petawawa has joined that list of communities asking to be removed from the legislation, or the amendment to the legislation.
And should we pass this resolution, it'll also go out to AMO as well, who will probably share it with the other municipalities. Any other questions or comments on this? So I guess we're looking for a motion here that council supports the correspondence letter and the resolution opposing the strong mayor powers for the town of Petawawa. So if you're comfortable with that, I need a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabourin, seconded by Councillor Coutu. The council supports the correspondence letter and the resolution opposing the strong mayor powers for the town of Petawawa. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, everybody. Okay, now we have a closed meeting. So I need a motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2, paragraph B, and paragraph C of the Municipal Act 2001 S.O.2001 C.25 as amended, to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality or local board. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.